going on, everybody? Welcome to the Hustling Sideways podcast. I'm Alan Halas. I'm a music writer.
And I'm Jim Love, and I'm a keynote and motivational speaker.
And this is the Hustling Sideways podcast. Jim, for some reason, I almost just said, and I'm a motivational speaker.
I would have said I'm a music writer.
Oh, okay.
We should start doing that.
Well,
like, really throw them for a loop.
Well, too late now. Anyway, This is the Hustling Sideways podcast.
And we are who we said we were. So
yes,
there you go.
And we are who we thought we were.
Yeah, we are. We let them off the hook. Yeah.
When we don't have amazing guests on like we have had the last few weeks, Jim and I talk about things that side hustlers go through in their passion projects, side hustles, all sorts of things like that, and stuff that we've gone through just in our lives as well, and related to side hustles.
And oftentimes it's like recency bias. I mean, just we're like something we're going through. And that's what today is for both of us. We're going to call it scheduling.
Yeah.
And generally we've talked about prioritization. We talked about like time management. But at the end of the day, like schedules just suck sometimes, right? So, and this came up for me, and this is going to happen, whenever. But obviously, I have a career and I have a side hustle. Which is why I do this show. I love doing that side hustle as much as I can, and I had committed to doing something in late October in Minnesota.
Okay.
And found out like last week that I can no longer do that because of like a client thing.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It's one of those things where like I have to obviously prioritize, what I'm doing. And so it's one of those things where I like reached out. I'm like, is this movable? And I think you just have to like deal with that being a thing. And it's short of like rearranging your whole life to go do it. Like, so I kind of approach these things now of like, I really hope I can do it. And if I can't, like, hopefully we can work together in some different way, which is not ideal. Like that's
the amount of time that you spend like playing Tetris, basically, of like, where does this go? How can I get out here for this day?
Yeah. And the interesting part is like my busy season is always going to be spring and it's always going to be fall because that's when conferences happen, when students are around. Every now and then you'll get a summer thing and a winter thing, but just not that often.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why those times are crowded is because there's a lot going on, which means that companies are just doing a lot generally. So it never like oftentimes my work just doesn't coincide with being applicable to take a day off. But like I had the time set aside, all this kind of stuff. And then sure enough,
you got to make stuff
I have to make it happen.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those things where like you just, this is not like the greatest conclusion of all time that I'm about to say, but you have to deal with it sometimes. That's just not what you can do. And so I think like when you make, and I'm pretty known of what I do. Like it's not a surprise to many people when I say what I do now on the side. People I work with, clients, whatever it might be. So I'm always like, I have this time set aside. I really hope I can do it. And then now and then you just have to be like, shoot, that's not the case. And that sucks. As you have a passion, you really want to go show it, but that's the reality of what it is. So I think it's important to note that usually like I'll end on like everything is great. And that's not the case. Like it's kind of stinks. And
it's not as fun.
Yeah. So a lot of people probably deal with that where you have to give up something to get something. And at the end of the day, you have to prioritize it. And your career is the most important part. And I had to do that. But I'm like, oof, like
now
I really wanted to go.
Now you got to adjust to make it work.
The whole thing. So I had that realization is this week. And I was like, man.
You just got to live out of
I think it's important to like acknowledge that, that we have to do
this. This is not going to be a humble brag because I definitely don't love it.
Humble it up, man.
This is the Google Calendar for me right now. That's this month. Or that's a month before that.
Is that day by day or week by week?
This is day by day.
I feel like you're not showing all the days.
This is no. It is day by day. Yeah.
Okay.
See how it's just blue and then like it just keeps going and going and going.
So is
like
that
I'm
personal?
Not saying that's.
Is that work and personal or
that's everything because I have to have them all on one calendar. Yeah. Like I was terrible at time management like for years.
Yeah.
So terrible at it.
Were you so bad because you didn't write stuff down or why was it so bad?
Well, partially. Okay. So here's where my part of scheduling comes in.
Yeah.
Is partially I was not writing stuff down. The other thing that I didn't do was take into account both work and side hustle stuff on the same calendar.
Yeah.
Like that's multiple calendars over each other. Like if I needed to separate it out, I could. Mm-hmm. But like for me, I absolutely have to live out of my Google Calendar, especially in summer when there's like festivals going on and there's a concert every weekend.
That'd be pretty critical for you.
And we're putting on shows and whatever is happening. Mm-hmm. So I have to live out a Google Calendar for sure. But now I've had to like even like put tasks in there of like this needs to get done every week. This needs to get done every week.
Yeah.
And like another version of me years ago hates it and is like, dude, what happened to you? But like,
why are you doing this?
The professional wants to keep my job and my side hustle going. Side of me is like, you have to live out of your calendar.
It's always going to be busy. That's the reality. I think if you take on something that's beyond a career, you're inevitably going to be busy, and you got to just get used to that and you balance it. But I think you have to deal with when like you're going to have to cancel something because something takes precedence over it.
Oh, totally.
And it sucks, and it's not like the best. Like you're like, because if I sign something on, I'm like, I'll be there, and then I'm like, crap, I won't be there. And like, here's reality. I got 2 months notice for this one, so like that's great, but not always the case. You know, like you
sometimes
might get 2
it's
weeks.
like the day or the week of.
You got to deal with it, and it's not fun. But I think you have to just be real with the folks you're working with about that. Like,
and I think now, honestly, post-COVID, most people are like very more accepting of that sort of thing.
I hope so.
I guess like I feel like just in general, people make more time for themselves and whatever, and they're more understanding in general because we've all been through some things. But for me, the other part of it too is not only do I have to put why I sucked before at this was not only would I not put some things in the calendar, I would also not take into account like how long it took to get to somewhere,
or you didn't have travel time or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, now I'm so much better at like trying to give myself a buffer of like. Yeah. One, either I have to get to somewhere or I have to get something or I know that or two, I know I'm going to get sidetracked along the way with something.
Right.
So I have to give myself enough of a buffer that I'm like, if I'm busy working on this thing, I can still make it there on time. Now, my wife would tend to disagree with me and say that I'm still late to everything.
You're somehow late. Yeah,
she's the kind of person that wants to be, if she's not 15 minutes early, she's
That's
late.
how I am too.
Oh my God. I don't know how you guys do it.
That's how I was like raised. We were always on time and stuff. And I don't like, I hate the feeling of being late. It's probably my least favorite feeling in the world. So I try. Go out of my way to not do that.
I genuinely try to be on time. It's just most times it doesn't happen. Unless it's like an absolute, like it's a work thing or a client thing. But if it's a side hustle thing, I'm trying to get there, man. But we will get there.
But in your world, people are late all the time.
God, yeah. So me being on time, like for shows and stuff like that is considered rare air because like
I bet.
You'll have artists that won't show up until, I've had artists show up 5 minutes before they're supposed to go on.
It's wild.
Like they have all their stuff ready for the DJ or whatever, or sometimes like I'm waiting on them, and like sometimes people just no show on you, and you're like, what is happening?
For me, if I'm late, like to like a school or a conference, that's not good. Like they are starting when they're starting, and I have to be there. So I've had that talent, I guess, of showing up on time and being where I need to be. But I think like we all have our ways to do it. I know we've talked about these different things, but you're going to have a moment that you're going to have to cancel something. And it sucks, and you have to just deal with it. And I think then you work your butt off to try and get that again. Like I'm like, maybe we can do it again next year.
I'm also that way too, where when you cancel something, I have to like schedule that makake on the spot.
Like it's got to happen.
Because if I don't do it, then again, it gets lost in the ether.
That's how I am with people on the phone. I'm like, when's the next time we can talk?
Yeah.
Because like, you're not going to respond.
You know what's the worst is email scheduling things where you're like, send me 3 dates and send me like some times and see which one works. Like I just want to like hammer that out over the phone or something.
Just do it now. I know.
Like when can you get me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When can we see each other?
I need it now.
But
what is your schedule?
Yes. Like? What is your schedule like?
Canceling things like us.
What's your secret to rescheduling, scheduling, organizing it all? Yeah. Seriously, we need help.
We do. If you can't tell, this is a cry for help. So please help us.
So in the meantime, if you've listened to the show for the first time, thank you. If you've listened to it for the like 100-something time,
it might be about that much.
Then we also thank you as well because we've done a bunch of bonuses and stuff. So they could be over 100 now at this point.
Yep.
We are the Hustling Sideways podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us. We are on Facebook. We are on X. We are on Instagram, LinkedIn. We're on YouTube. All of those things. We have another chair here, so if you want to be a guest on this show, do us a favor, send us an email. It is hustlingsideways@gmail.com. And Jim,
keep on hustling.
We will see you next week.
Peace.